Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8.6. Okay, this is going to be continuing off from the split off point. This is the standard series, not the alt series. We're continuing here. We are not going to back up the Italian invasion of Britain. I want to specifically test whether the Atlantic Wall is a help or a hindrance with the scripted invasion. So we're going to be focusing here. Yes, we have control of the Mediterranean. And we will improve our twin engine fighter prototypes. Yeah, we will continue improving our aircraft carriers. Okay, well, let's see. We're going to come back here, mess up their attack. There. Then we're going to cut down through here. Yeah, they're going to keep trying to attack, but they're only decent at holding their mountains. Trying to attack out of them, they don't do so well. We're taking them down. Are they coming up here? Yes, good. Oh, we're being bombed. Medium fuel tank advanced and light cruiser armor, which I want to stop because I like fast light cruisers better than heavily armored slow ones. So we'll transfer that, and of course we can now do flying boat and naval bomber. My two favorites. Okay, now these guys have dropped off the HQ. Better coverage here for India. I'll cancel that. Put them under there. Spain. You want a lot of metal? Great. Have metal. Craft hangars, will that continue? Both we've won there. Okay, guys. You rebase up to there. Now that we've got Indian troops a little bit outside of their HQ authority region, but Uh-oh, we lost transport. There's some sort of action here. We're... Okay, well, a bunch of liners, which are not mine, for sure. Yeah, some other heavy ships there. Okay, well, fortunately, it looks like we got off with a loss of only one transport, and that's okay. So we're shot up, the Scharnhorst is shot up a bit. But unfortunately, the messed up there and is still upgrading, but the Erlich von Houten battleship. Good. And CAG bomber focus, that will help these CAGs. Oh, won't tap. We want to stop that. And let's transfer that to medium bomber prototypes. Now thinking about naval affairs. Let's come down here. I think we missed being too heavily engaged. Rebase to here. We are supplying that, are we not? Yes, good. That should be able to get enough supplies. More people. Okay, you're almost there. Good. You're having trouble with fuel. Or supplies, or both. We have air bases in Freetown, so let's see if we can transport you to Freetown. Hopefully the Vichy are moving in. What's their supply situation look like there? Oh, we're here. Yeah, okay, there's supplies here, so we can fly supplies up to there. That'll be good. They're all attacking. They're out of fuel, but don't need any, so they're going to attack. Okay, they're there, but they don't have much in the way of fuel, but we'll still air supply up over to them. Maybe we should be stealing supplies from Portugal. Yes, you may have metal. We got more metal than we know what to do with. And we're still producing more. You strategically redeploy down to there. Now these guys I'm not worried about because we got actively units coming a little bit faster there. These guys played the alt series a bit, we lose them. We just don't get there in time. Okay, large contingencies of police, and we have those. Okay. Let's grab him, and he has a fair number of police attached to him. Actually, let's also grab him. On board with them. We'll reorganize once we sort of get there, as it were. Send these guys to South Africa. And we'll specify those. These other police units. Put them all on here. And send them where I don't have too bad, but getting a bit here and there. We'll send them to here. Nice sort of central location. To spread out from south, north, west, east, I guess. Yes, from there. Have they made it to their base there yet? Yes, they have. Okay, the 3rd Marine Division here, or is going to invade down here. I think we've also, okay, we've got these guys here. So they're going to crush. There looks like maybe they're sending reinforcements. We're going to crush these Brazilians. They did a brave thing in coming all the way across the Atlantic to try to mess with us, but we're going to have to crush them, and we just did. I don't think they had supply. They might not have enough ships to supply them. That was one thing I wish we could transfer in multiple games. Supply transport vessels as a standard sort of lend-lease type function. Well, they're joining back in on that. Here's the Brazilian troops given over to Britain. Nice of them. But we're still going to crush all opposition. Presume they made it safely down to South Africa here. This fleet, yeah, now. That'll help a little bit with revolt risk. Good. We're sort of getting revolt risky. Not sure just where, when I want to send those anywhere. Now, as I said before, I think I'm going to steal supplies from Portugal. Getting out of my supply range from there. I think the supplies that I steal from Portugal, I think they get drawn out of my, eventually out of my supply column, but okay, well, let's drop supplies in here. How are the Italians doing on their own up in here? See, the Americans don't have a lot of defense forces. One of them being here currently looks to be a Danish HQ that they inherited, probably from Iceland or somewhere. But taking the British territories will be... Oh, somebody's got a blueprint. Hopefully it's an ally. I'm mentioning that. We need to shift some leadership around. Okay, diplomacy. How much are we... Okay, we're using just what we're... And I think we are overabundance on officers. So we will increase drawdown from the officers a little bit. And let's draw down a little bit from the research. That way, hopefully we will both stop thieves, though I hope, because I'm trying to steal blueprints from like Japan, because I think they're ahead of us on some naval techs and things like that. Oh, we might actually win here. Probably not, but that would be nice. Excuse me. Wow. Okay. AA control escort types. Okay. Okay, and it's grayed out, but we're 3 of 3 and it's 45, whatever. Guess we can't probably upgrade those, but those will be useful. Race and time, do we make it? Do they make it? No, they can't move because they don't have supplies. Okay, well, oh, we gotta be... These are the police units. Okay, well, you get to head back. Well, let's send you back up to here. No, actually, let's send you to Iran, because we got all these units here. Big, huge mega stack, and I don't know whether I'm going to send them back into the Soviet, face the Soviet Union or what. Don't know yet. You go there. I want to send you a little deeper in here. That police unit will leave. Well, let's detach that one. send one way up there. Leave that there in Bombay. This 3-strong unit. Eventually I'm going to not be leaving these armored units and whatnot in central India, so their partisan suppression will be useful. No thanks, Italy. We won here, so how are we doing down here? Okay, we've got here. So we need another supply. Convoy. We'll go from Bordeaux. I don't know if it'd be better to run it out of the Mediterranean longer, but maybe a little less attack prone. But okay, now what I am doing here is, well, one thing, I'm building a bunch more police units, but these are a little bit more mobile. They have some transport with them. Build just basic. I'm building a bunch of tropical island garrisons. Some are to be for these 2 islands, plus other ones, just to keep things like that Brazil from happening. Some are also to be sort of coastal garrisons in Africa and wherever else, and those include a police battalion. The anti-aircraft is really good dual purposes. You know, once you have the tech done, because it's anti-aircraft, but it's also pretty good piercing for anti-armor, though it doesn't have high hard attack. It is hard attack hurts armor, soft attack hurts infantry type things, but the piercing level determines if it punches the armor or not. So it has pretty good piercing, but not nearly as good a hard attack as proper anti-armor. But I really don't want to spend, have too much. And then the rocket artillery is pretty cheap artillery to make, though they use a lot more supplies once they're in combat. So that way they'll be, I'm even throwing in a headquarters for combined arms. So we'll have a bunch of these for here, for possibly along Africa. We have these guys now sort of spread out here, watching, waiting. Oh, Brazil did reinforce here. There was a reinforcement coming. Okay, well, we've got a real fight there. Brazilians are gonna fight. So, but we do have these sort of minimum garrison places now to watch some of our port along here. But a little better would be nice. Council, you just you support that attack. Okay, fire control advance for aircraft carriers, and that's grayed out. Well, I say that probably too much. Let's do some infantry weapon improvements. combination of I don't trust and they don't have a lot of resources for somebody like Vichy France to hold their own territory. How is Italy? Okay, well they got second American port. But I suspect, well, I don't know, Italy may be able to move in a lot of forces, and if you notice, they are moving some stuff around a bit, but we'll see whether they can take it or not. That was damage control systems, okay. Damage control systems, which will stop because we're already 46. And fire control systems for light units. Okay, and they're also grayed out. So we will shift more into infantry. Yeah, we're being cruel to the Italians, but I want to do a D-Day, or I want to defend against a D-Day. It depends on how they've coded it. If they've coded it like this, it's better to not have any defenses, because when they coded this, they actually transfer the territory over and drop forces, and so it makes them the defender instead of the attacker. And I want to see how it currently is, and if it's not the way I like it, or think it should be, or however you want to put that, I want to complain and have Oh My God fix it, because he's good at that kind of stuff. I'm sure he'd want it fixed too if he's thinking about it. Don't take my gonna complain too seriously, because I know they're doing a lot of good work. It's just gotta sort of comment on it. If you don't, things don't get fixed. No good, we held out these guys. Okay, so we saved them. Didn't do that last time, probably wasn't on it as much as I could or should be. You go there. You got engineering equipment, you go across the bridge into there, to Calcutta. Switzerland and Spain. Yes, you can have metal, and you can have energy, lots of it. Well, you come down there and take this. Now here, these guys, I want to load up the Marine, which is too far out of distance for command, so we're going to send you to, now let's send you up to here. Rebase. That may be within command distance, probably not, but we'll see. Amphibious ship defenses, well, good. Basically machine guns, I presume, or other light type. Okay, we've totally crunched out the southern, or the rest of East Africa except for these guys, basically trapped here. And we are bombing a carrier, a battleship, light cruiser, and a heavy cruiser. Major defeat, Jaeger division shattered. Alpor, okay, oh, it was here that got shattered. Okay, well, I got shattered and sent back to Berlin. least they didn't just disappear. You crash into that unit there. Then across the river there. Attacking there. Okay, well. No. Actually, I want to put you. Leave them there. You. Guys, let's stick you guys there. Hopefully we've not going to bump into anybody, but we'll see. Let's go here first. Rebase. We're in a bit higher revolt risk there, as you can see. There. Crippled, no supply. I don't know why that's St. Louis. Sure, it has something to do with somebody who discovered it or something, but or when they discovered it, named it. Okay, here's a just thought of one of my sort of, if you will, pet peeves against, now that we have fuel, some modern stuff that started a bit when I was in school many years ago now, but is now, at least in American schools. Again, I don't know what they teach in other schools around the world. And I don't know in detail what they teach in American schools, but I have a reasonably good idea, partially seeing the idiocy that a lot of these professors have, or just even regular teachers have. They often want to talk about how certain people didn't really discover things because there were already indigenous people there that knew about it. And it's sort of, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, racist of a term or something, in the sense that, you know, it's white men discovered it. Okay, well, look, well, like Victoria Falls or Lake Victoria, like Lake Victoria, that is, Stanley and Livingston, or either one of them, are together. I forget. I'm sorry. I forget the detail. Sort of discover that the Nile, or at least one sort of branch of the Nile, comes from Lake Victoria. Now, obviously, there's another branch of the Nile that comes from here in Ethiopia, but that was a long time sort of mystery in the world, and they sort of discovered Lake Victoria. Now, of course, there were a bunch of Africans, different tribes. I don't know the names. Were living there, and they knew perfectly well where Lake Victoria was. So it wasn't like the white man discovered it. No, the white man did discover it, because discovery isn't the first person there. I could be on an airplane, the airplane could crash land somewhere, and I could survive for a while and go, oh, I discovered a new waterfall somewhere in some remote jungle. Okay, and then I die. Well, I didn't discover it because discovery is a process. It is one going there and mapping it, putting it on a map and showing where it is to the rest of the world. Not just, oh, it's here, but where is it in relation to the rest of the world? That's part one, is going there and mapping where it is. And part two is publishing it out to the rest of the world so that everyone knows, that even has never been to this location knows about it. Okay, so in that sense, most of the world, if you will, has been discovered by Europeans. Because, see, you know what? China, the Chinese knew where all this stuff was in China. They knew where these rivers were. Now some of them have changed because of and I know I have some Chinese viewers. A lot of them are in Taiwan, but some of them, I think, get out through VPINs from China, and a few are maybe in Hong Kong. Talked to Matt Ma earlier today, who I believe is in Taiwan, Chinese. And there's no disrespect for Chinese, but like I say, and you know, they knew where all the rivers were and where all the lakes were and where all the cities were, you know, for hundreds of years, maybe even 1,000 years or something. They knew where this city was. But you see, one thing that the Chinese didn't do, and they did map it. There are Chinese maps. Absolutely, there are Chinese maps. And so they knew where this city, Wuhan, was. I really don't know anything about the city. Obviously, I do know a little bit about Nanjing or Nanking or however you want to say it, where it was. And obviously the river. The Chinese knew all that. But they didn't do the second step. They did not print it in a book and ship it to Europe, ship it to, I don't know, Africa, because there was the long-term Ethiopian monarchies. They didn't ship it to Persia and say, here's a map of China, everybody. This is everything on the map. They didn't ship it to, you know, obviously, you know, going back into this, even the 1500s, they didn't ship a copy of that map to the Americas. They didn't ship out books to the rest of the world. Now, I'm not saying they hid the books either, but they didn't really care of what the rest of the world thought about China, because they were the Middle Kingdom. The rest of the world was sort of barbarian, so they didn't care about, and maybe even for strategic reasons, because they had faced barbarian invasions from the Mongolians, if you will, didn't necessarily want the rest of the world to know about China. But they did not do that second part. So, you know, it's, there's a temple somewhere here in India that's a Hindu temple that was discovered by some Europeans or whatever. And they thought it was a lost and unknown sort of temple because it was sort of overgrown. And it's this one temple that has all these erotic carvings all over it. And it's sort of like, wow, and, you know, and for quite a number of years, they thought they discovered it, that no one had known about it. Well, the locals sort of knew about it, but they come and have like a, once a year or once every few years, big sort of celebration of whatever Hindu gods with that temple. But then they sort of leave it alone. They don't like have ongoing priests there every day or whatever. And so the Europeans thought it was sort of lost, but the local Indians, and there's a lot of sophisticated Indians, and Indian culture is fairly sophisticated even before the Europeans show up, and I know that. But it wasn't published out in international languages and spread around the world. So the Europeans, whether it's cities or temples or rivers or lakes, may be very well known to the locals, may even be mapped all out for the locals, but is not published out to the world. And see, that is discovery. That is why, you know, whether it's Magellan or somebody else sailing around the world, he's mapping things out, discovering new lands, that yes, the indigenous people, and sometimes when you can look at some of the empires in Mexico and down here, They had pictogram writings, you know, they're sort of hieroglyphs. We really don't understand them, but they were written records. They knew about stuff, and I presume they had maps and all that stuff. So they knew about it, but because it wasn't published to the world, they didn't discover it. So that's what discovery is. So the, if you will, the European, I sort of don't like the term white man, but the European and their, you know, European peoples spread around the world, they are the primary discoverers of the world because they do two parts of the process. They find and map, bring that information out, and then publish it to the world. And that is why we get to name everywhere, if you will, the Europeans. Oh, we lost very high popularity. We're down to low popularity. Okay, rocket interceptors. If you've watched my alt version, you sort of know that these guys, they're not necessarily very good. They're in the secret stuff. And I say that not necessarily very good because sort of the Black Ice thing. They've done a really good, Black Ice has done a really good job with all of these air techs in coming up with this kind of stuff. But they really have not done a good job of jets. You may be saying, well, but look at all this stuff. Yes, they have all this stuff here. But jets should really be a game changer. If Germany had been able to produce a lot of jets, and Germany produced a lot of Me-262 frames, by the time they started producing the engines for them, and we can talk about the delays that Hitler wanted to be a ground attack aircraft and trying to redesign it and get it to work, which is all real, and they did try to do all that, delayed its production. But the other thing is, just by the time they really started producing the engines, they had lost access to some of their better high-quality steel. So the jet engines had really short lifespans because they're really hot and they're melting the engines basically as they're using them. They weren't high-temperature, long-use engines. That was part of it. Plus, just generally, engine production wasn't up to the speed of airframe production. So they, I don't know, let's just say 3 or 4 times as many airframes as they built that they had engines for. So they built a lot of airframes, sort of all complete Me-262s in the last days of the war, when air power really wasn't going to change who wins or loses the war, but might have changed the bombing campaigns. Might have been able to shoot down enough American and British, particularly American daylight bombers, shoot down enough of those to stop the bombing. They might really. Now, a few people have asked, well, if they did this or this other thing different, do I think it would have changed the, you know, who won the war? And because I talk about, there's a lot of things that Germany could have done different that at the right time very well could have changed the outcome. But basically, jets wouldn't have changed who won the war, but could have, like I say, stopped much of the bombing in central Germany away from the front. I don't think jets would have been enough, because like Chuck Yeager said, the first time I ever saw a jet, I shot it down. You know, so, you know, because so, and he sort of says, yeah, and he was trying to land at the time at the airport in a sort of a, you know, don't know, sneaky thing, or I don't know, kind of term he did, but it's war and you got to do it. So a lot of the 262s were shot down over there on airports because that's when they slowed down enough for the American pilots to get at them. But still, they were almost to a point, once they were up in the air and flying around, almost untouchable. But there weren't enough of them, or enough to maybe to shut down or take over the airspace over the Allies. But even if they had done so, I think it was too late in the war to change the outcome. Now, had they got there before the D-Day invasions and produced enough of them, when there was also, and be able to take over the airspaces around the water, that maybe, with the situation, you have to always take into what's going on the Eastern Front, whether that would have changed it. But of course, the British were coming up with the Meteor, and I forget the American jet, which neither of those two jets were as good as the Me-262, but they were good enough to combat it, you know, to go up there and confront it. Not that they would always win, but enough of them would have kept the balance. So really, jets should be a game changer. in it, but they're not in this. Meaning, is it really actually worth it to build them? I don't know. They're really good units, but you can also make really good, and since they're upgrading other fighter units. The interceptor rockets, basically the comets, that's what these are. You know, we can see here. Here, rocket interceptors. Now that's not a rocket interceptor. That is a Heinkel, I think. Yeah, Heinkel Volksjäger. That's not a ME. What is it? 163 Comet. What that jet should be, or the rocket interceptor. These were made later after the ME-262, made to be cheaper. Cheaper airframes, easier to build, and they only used one engine. They weren't, in my opinion, anywhere near as good. The Volksjäger weren't nearly as good as the 262, but it was the idea of making more quicker, faster, and only needing one of the precious engines instead of two of them to do so. This, of course, is the V1, the flying bomb, but the rocket interceptor should be the 163, I believe the number is. You know, Messerschmitt Comet. Now those were really good to a degree. They were very extremely short range. Is this? Yeah, maximum missile range. Probably should be even shorter than this. Basically, what they were designed to do is to climb up into high altitudes very fast. And part of that comes from the days as Germany is trying to deal with where the attacks are coming and have to get up there quick. And then, while still to some degree having rocket engine fuel left, but even after the rocket engine fuel is done, to have multiple attack runs on bombers, particularly, not really attacks on fighters, because they're reasonably maneuverable, but they're going so fast that if you jink a fighter or whatever a little bit, if you sort of know you're under attack and do that, you probably couldn't hit too well, but you could make wicked fast attack runs, faster than the counter gunners could get on the bombers, and since bombers are flying in close formation, they can't jink away so much, so you can do these attack runs with them. So the Comets were good at that and would do that really well. They had, I think, most of the losses were on landing. Because they use the Z-Stoff and Z-Stoff fuel base rocket, hydrogen rocket fuel mixture, and it was highly volatile to a point of almost being explosive. But and so if you got that tank on fire, it could sort of you know, basically explode and turn the craft into a fireball. So even once they'd burned out all the fuel on it, and that the rocket motor stops, there was often trace remains of the fuel, just enough that sort of coming in and landing on its skid, because it had a skid that was designed to land in fields, because often you couldn't get back to your airport because you're already a glider through the last several of your attack passes. A very fast glider, but a glider. So you were going to come down wherever, and so they had a skid to land like in fields and places like that, which really wasn't too dangerous where they were normally using it, but with that fuel in there, it would catch fire, so more of the pilots died from that catching on fire. So a 9 ICs rocket in 127 days versus a 20 versus 160, I don't know, but let's see, you got range more. Well, these are actually pretty good for game terms, so maybe you would want to use them, but in real life they were sort of dangerous to their own crews because of that. Okay, fighter ground control advance. Since we've lost high popularity, we don't have as much leadership, but we still have some now that we stop that. Well, let's move these, do this. And carrier crew training is advanced damage control systems. Okay, carrier. Oh, well, this is probably this down here. Carrier crew training 41. Oh, that's all right. We'll stop that. Let's shift over here for damage control. And order placed. Who's with Hungary? Yeah, you can have some fighters. SS Schmutt Brigade, or Brigade SS Brigade Schmutt. The brigade was formed in November 42 from the 7th Watch Battalion Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, a unit normally stationed in Berlin on guard and public duties. The 1st SS Panzer Grenadier Regiment, or Battalion, or Regiment 3, 1st Battalion from the 3rd Regiment, I guess is what I mean. Der Führer from Das Reich, 1st Battalion, SS Polizei Grenadier Regiment, okay, the SS Polizei and the Luftfield Battalion. Okay, that's an earlier picture. That's, I think, an Austrian made. So it's sort of a funky, I think Germany, I don't think Germany built too many of those. I think they mostly got them from Austria and used what few of them they did. This is an armored car that was, as you can maybe sort of tell, had a driving station for each direction, so that if you wanted to back up, you just switch over to the other driver and he drives in the other direction, so you're not backing up. Sort of cool, but not terribly great. Not a bad armored car, but sort of a dead end. I think it's earlier, but let's see. So we could get that or not. Yeah, we'll take that. Yes, we'll take another Commerce Raider. This is a repeating event that shouldn't be repeating. Okay, yes, Hitler requests. So we request. Uh-oh. We just had a crash. So well, I'm going to end the episode here and hopefully come back from the last save for the next episode. Thanks so much. See you next time. Please like the videos and comment and subscribe. See you next time.